Probably the most asked question I get from owning this car. It has nothing to do with the actual car, the model, any specifics on the car itself, and it gets asked by car people and non-car people alike. What's it like to drive right-hand drive? It's a valid question, especially for anybody that has no experience with these. So I decided to give you a point of view on the car. That way you get to see some of the challenges. Some of them are what you would think typical, you know, everybody talks about the drive-through scenario. It's funny to talk about, you know, put it in reverse and you drive through reverse. For me, we really don't eat fast food, so that's not an issue for me. If I do go through a drive-through, I usually have like my wife in the passenger side of getting Starbucks or something like that, and she just pays. But we don't really eat much fast food, so that's a non-issue for us. A few other things that have come up, I'll demonstrate here that most people don't think about. Can be some kind of safety issues, but rather than explain them, I'm gonna show you so you can get a first-hand view of what it's like to be in a right-hand drive car, RX7 specifically, but this should apply to most right-hand drive cars with some caveats. But let's get on with the drive. This should give you a pretty good point of view for what it's like to be in the RX7. Just to give you an idea, I'm a fairly small guy. I'm 5'8", so this is what it's going to look like. The lens is at eye height to me, so this should be a pretty good view of what you'd see if you're 5'8". So if you're 6 foot, you're going to be, you know, another 4 inches taller than this. And believe it or not, 6 foot people and above do fit in these. You might want to get one without a sunroof though, that way you got more headspace. Just like here, you can see these are kind of cut out. I do have a few tall friends that drive FDs. It's possible some of them have to lower their seats and do something with the rails or remove the rails entirely, but it is possible. These cars were not designed for big people. This car fits me perfectly. Maybe I'm the size of a Japanese man from the 90s, I don't know, but the seats, these R1 seats in America, these are just our model in Japan. Talked about them before. They hug your core. They're super comfortable. They're great for tracking because they don't allow you to slide around in the seat. So it's one of my favorite features of the R models, along with the dual oil coolers and the strut tower bar. But I love the R model seats. If you've never been in an RX7, it is very driver centric. Everything's kind of focused around the driver. Very similar to like a Mark IV Supra or 3000 GT. Everything kind of wraps around to the driver. Very cockpit oriented, and I really love that about the car. People always talk about the tachometer. You can see the tach. That's the biggest gauge you have on there, bigger than the speedometer. Really easy to see while you're driving. You don't really have to look at it. You can kind of use your peripheral to see where the needle's at. This does have a buzzer for getting close to red line. I would say the biggest issue that I wouldn't think would have been an issue were right-hand turns. As you'll see here in a moment, if you're already starting to initiate the right-hand turn, especially in RX7, you got a pretty big blind spot back there. Can make it kind of dangerous to turn right if you're not real careful. This can happen in a left-hand drive car too, just not usually right-hand turns because you're right up against that window. But as you'll see here, I have this big blind spot, and seeing anybody come is not going to see it. So you got to wait till you're far enough forward and you can kind of see back there. Nobody's coming.
I turn now. Good luck, everybody else.
those that are totally new to right-hand drive, everything's pretty much the same. There's no difference in the transmission. All the gears are in the same location first. You can see the pattern right here. That's not going to change. You just got to shift with your left hand instead of your right. There's one hurdle I don't hear that discussed enough with the right-hand drive topic is these two-lane roads like this. Say you're behind somebody slow and you wanted to get around them. There's really no safe way to sit there and peek to see if there's any oncoming traffic. That's probably the biggest downside to driving one of these. If you're on the left side of the road, you know, you can creep over to the most part of the lane without even going over the lane and peek around the cars in front of you to see if it's safe, but there's really no way around, you know, looking around. If you have a wide enough shoulder, I guess you might be able to pull to the right and try to look around that way, but I don't think that's really going to work. But you can see even leaning way over, you know, you're only going to see so far, not far enough to make a safe pass. Thing that gets new right-hand drive owners are the blinkers. You go to turn your blinker and you actually turn your wipers on. That's gonna get everybody. If you've driven a car for a long time, using your blinker is just second nature. You know, you don't even have to think about it. It's muscle memory, just like shifting. The first few times driving a right-hand drive car, if you're not used to shifting with your left hand, then you're gonna, you know, have to sit there and actually think about which gear you're putting it in. Whereas if you've been driving a left-hand drive car, you know, you don't even really have to think. It's just automatic. It's just like walking. You're not really thinking one foot in front of the other. You're not really thinking which gear you got to put it in when you're shifting if you've been driving for a while. So first time driving a right-hand drive, you are having to think about which gear you're putting it in, but now that I've been driving it for a while, it's just like driving a left-hand drive. Everything's second nature. So here we are, we're in a situation where we got to pass this bike. Again, dangerous situation. I got to let this guy get pretty far ahead before I can see if, you know, I got a safe way to pass. Once I know I have enough room, then I can safely pass, or he turns off on the road. One question a stranger asked while we were out one day was when my wife got out of the car. He didn't ask anything about the car or anything, you know, special. He just looked at my wife and said, "What's it like to ride on that side of the car with all the oncoming traffic?" You know, and I hadn't really thought about it until he said it, and she's like, you know, it is kind of intimidating. You're used to driving on that side of the car and you're in full control of the car, so you're, you know, not thinking about anything happening on that side of the car. But I could see when you're a passenger and you're, you know, right next to all the oncoming cars, then that could be a little intimidating. I thought that was pretty interesting. We got back there. saw they're pulling in my neighborhood. One thing I don't have to worry about is punching in a code or anything to get in my gate. We got barcodes on the windows, so that is a concern. If you live in a gated neighborhood and you have a code to punch in, you might have to get one of those little T-Rex arms to reach over and poke through the window like that. That would be kind of funny to see, but I'm lucky enough not to have to deal with that. In Florida, we have the toll stations are all toll by plate, so I don't have to worry about stopping at a toll station and, you know, trying to throw some change in or anything like that. So those are some of the common things that get brought up. Well, there's my little point of view video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.